the dormitory, I unexpectedly transitioned into an omega and found myself entangled in bed with my childhood friend, whom I secretly adored. The following day, he confronted me with a brooding expression. Who was that lustful omega last night? Upon witnessing Goujua's disdainful countenance, I instinctively fabricated a falsehood. How would I know? Surely it couldn't be me. You know I'm merely a beta. I chuckled nervously, my fist clenched tightly within the confines of my sleeve. How could I have forgotten that Gayromance harbored a deep aversion to omegas? In an effort to conceal my transformation, I began to actively avoid Gayromance, declining his invitations to accompany him. I made a point of rising early in the mornings and returning late at night. As I observed the increasing gloom in his brows, my heart raced with anxiety. Fearing that I might inadvertently betray myself, I promptly approached the counselor to request a change of dormitory. However, just as I stepped outside, Gayromance should have been in class materialized behind me like a specter, his towering figure casting a shadow over me. Abai, what have I done wrong to warrant your constant evasion? One up before dawn, I stealthily rose from my bed, my face flushed as I hurried into the bathroom, clutching my underwear. Turning the water flow to its lowest setting, I glared in embarrassment at the intimate garment before me. It was truly perplexing despite having long passed puberty. Why had I been plagued by such dreams recently? Abai, are you washing your underwear? Startled, I instantly turned around, instinctively concealing my underwear behind me, only to be caught in the act by the very figure of my dreams. He grasped my waist with one hand, squinting with a mischievous glint as he leaned in to peek behind me. Abai, are you feeling unfulfilled? Gayromance flashed a brilliant smile as he casually dipped his hand into the soapy basin, proceeding to wash with an ease that left me flustered. Aunt you entrusted you to me, and I must take good care of you otherwise. How would I ever be allowed through the door? I buried my face in my hands, nearly igniting with embarrassment. I fervently reminded myself not to overthink the situation. It was precisely because Gayromance had never entertained any inappropriate thoughts towards me that he felt free to jest in such a manner that I watched him, humming a tune as he scrubbed the clothes, seemingly reveling in the moment. Abai, darling, your hands can't handle the detergent from now on. Let me take care of these little matters. My hands are quite prone to allergies, and ever since we were assigned to the same dormitory, Gayromance has taken it upon himself to handle all the household chores. It's rather astonishing that the seemingly aloof and charismatic management god could be so domestic behind closed doors. Gayromance and I grew up together, having seen each other in our most vulnerable states, yet familiarity has not dulled the depth of our bond. However, as our bodies matured, the moment I first uttered Gayromance name in a moment of vulnerability, I realized my feelings had irrevocably changed. Yaoi had fallen for the childhood companion who had always been by my side. Feeling utterly embarrassed, I attempted to divert the conversation. Gayromance, have you been wearing perfume? Strangely enough, I had recently noticed a subtle fragrance emanating from him. Had I not been acutely aware of my inability to detect pheromones, I might have thought I had matured myself. I haven't used any perfume. It's probably just the scent of my body wash, Gayromance replied, lifting his arm to sniff. But I'm approaching my heat period soon. I nodded in understanding, not pondering it further. Yet that night, I found myself feverishly sprawled across Gayromac's bed, curled up like a shrimp, subconsciously inhaling the scent of the sheets beneath me, while my body felt increasingly unmanageable. With disbelief, I reached behind me, only to find a slick sensation. The dormitory was permeated with an intoxicating aroma. It dawned on me that the fragrance I had been smelling was, in fact, Gayromac's pheromones. Had I truly matured? My mind was a jumbled mess. I recognized that I shouldn't be in this state, but my body, betraying me, trembled on Gayromac's bed. Yet it was not enough. I was overwhelmed with desperation. My consciousness began to fade. When the door swung open, the collision of our pheromones filled the room with an explosive scent. What transpired afterward was a whirlwind of confusion, mingled with shame, pain, and an indescribable pleasure that left me trembling in tears. When I opened my eyes again, I was met with the sight of a bare Gayromance beside me, nearly sending me into a panic. Ignoring the wetness trailing down my thighs, I hastily donned my clothes and limped out of the dormitory. Xiaoyu, thank you. I fastened the buttons of my shirt, offering a faint smile to Xiaoyu, who leaned against the doorframe. It was only after I had rushed out of the dormitory that I realized how impulsive I had been. Running around campus reeking of pheromones was hardly a wise decision. Fortunately, I encountered Xiaoyu, who escorted me home and provided me with his own suppressants, as well as fresh clothing. Yaoi, don't thank me and definitely don't hand me a good person card, Xiaoyu said, feigning exasperation. Did the Gu family finally have their way with you? Almost choking on my drink, I instinctively retorted, I did not. Xiaoyu pinched his nose, wearing a look of disbelief. Come on, you reek of goo-s pheromones. Sorry, I replied, my face burning with embarrassment. But could you please keep this from Gujua? Xiao Yu looked at me with a puzzled expression. What is there to keep secret? Does he not know he was with you? My breath hitched as I lowered my gaze, forcing a bitter smile. Indeed, he doesn't remember. I attempted to appear nonchalant, showing Xiao Yu my phone, which displayed several missed calls from Gujua. Half an hour prior, I had seen Gujua's name flash across my screen, filling me with dread and confusion, yet a flicker of hope lingered. After all, we had shared so many years of friendship. What if, just maybe, Gujua didn't mind that I had matured? Taking a deep breath, I steeled myself to answer the call, but Gujua's words felt like a bucket of cold water dousing my anticipation. Ah, bye. Did you not return to the dormitory last night? I froze, momentarily at a loss for words. Finally, I mustered the courage to lie. Yes, I was in the lab all night. There was a long silence on the other end before Gujua's husky voice broke through. Last night, there was an Omega in our dorm. Do you know who it was? My fists clenched tightly, nails digging into my flesh as I forced a laugh. Haha, how would I know? Couldn't he possibly be me, right? You know I'm an alpha. Without waiting for a response, I hastily hung up, fearing that if I lingered any longer, I might break down in tears. My phone buzzed incessantly again, yet I lacked the courage to answer. I sank to the ground in the bustling corridor, tears flooding down like a broken dam. My body ached from the previous night's overexertion, yet I understood that we were no longer possible. Gujua despised Omegas, and I had transformed into one. Whether this was a stroke of luck or misfortune, Gujua was oblivious to the fact that the person from last night had been me. I wiped my tears, trying to comfort myself with the thought that if I could keep my maturation a secret, perhaps I could remain by his side as a friend. Xiao Yu listened to me with wide eyes, his mouth forming an A shape. He wore a look of hesitation before suddenly bursting into laughter. Haha, you buy? I support you. He opened his laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. If you want to keep this from Gujua, I can help you black out the cameras near the dormitory. Xiao Yu was a prodigious computer genius, having advanced directly to the youth class. As he worked, he playfully winked at me. You buy? Since you and Gujua seem to be out of the picture, why not consider me? Noticing my silence, he feigned anger. You're not prejudiced against Omegas, are you? It suddenly struck me that this young man had once confessed his feelings for me. Unsure of how to respond, Xiao Yu enveloped me in a warm embrace. I know you have someone in your heart. I was just joking. Besides, I've long since moved on from you, buy. Don't think too much. If you need to cry, just let it out. He gently patted my back, emitting a calming pheromone, and I finally succumbed, burying my face against him as I wept softly. By the time I composed myself and returned to school, it was already afternoon. To my surprise, the door to room 435 was wide open. Several burly men in matching uniforms were hauling mattresses and cabinets out, while masked individuals sprayed disinfectant. Gujua was nowhere to be found, though the sound of running water echoed from the bathroom. I stepped inside, and one of the uniformed workers explained, Mr. Gu requested a thorough disinfection and to have all bedding and clothing replaced. Gujua truly despised Omegas, so much so that he wanted to replace everything in the dormitory. I anxiously picked at the hangnail on my thumb, realizing that keeping last night's events a secret was indeed the right choice. The workers had long since departed, yet the sound of water continued unabated from the bathroom. I knocked on the door, but received no response. A wave of concern washed over me as I pushed the door open, revealing Guj was standing silently beneath the shower, his pale back arched like a taut bow. The bathroom was devoid of warmth. Gujua! I rushed forward, grabbing his arm, only to feel the icy chill of his skin. In this brisk spring weather, he was taking a cold shower. Gujua, you madman! I muttered a curse under my breath and quickly pulled the trembling Gujua out of the bathroom. Abai, I'm not clean anymore. Gujua's voice quivered with a thick sob. My heart skipped a beat. Just as I intended to turn away, a tall figure behind me enveloped me in a tight embrace. Don't look, Abai, I beg you, don't look at me. Gujua's damp hair brushed against my neck as he buried his face into my shoulder, sobbing so violently that he could hardly breathe. I can't wash it away. No matter how hard I try, I feel so filthy. Abai, if I'm not clean anymore, will you still want me? I spent a considerable amount of time soothing Gujua. His emotions finally stabilized somewhat, yet he still clung to me like a conjoined twin as we exited the bathroom. After much effort, I managed to get this towering figure of nearly 2 meters onto the bed. However, he began to weep again, tugging at my sleeve, insisting that I lie down beside him. Reluctantly, I climbed onto the bed. The confined space forced us to lie closely together. Suddenly, Guzhua furrowed his brow and, with a serious expression, began to sniff around me, his handsome face darkening. Abai, what's that smell on you? I thought my pheromones had inadvertently escaped, causing me to nervously shift away. You must be mistaken.
Impossible,
he exclaimed, sitting up in agitation. And this outfit, I've never seen it before. Like a curious puppy, he nestled closer, sniffing around, then gritted his teeth and spat out a name. Xiao Yu. I let out a sigh of relief and explained to Guzhua that I had borrowed Xiao Yu's clothing. What on earth did you do to require borrowing clothes? Guzhua's voice rose sharply. Did you not reject that guy? Is he pestering you? I frowned at his wild assumptions and urged him to stop overthinking. I don't care. Abai, he is no good. Stay away from him. What if I am also unworthy? I pressed my lips together, suppressing the bitterness swelling within, and subtly remarked, Guzhua, gender is merely a characteristic. One should not judge others solely based on it. However, Guzhua was vehemently opposed to my words. Are you really defending him? I've said it before, there is not a single good one among them. Is it so wrong for me to dislike him? I sighed deeply. As childhood companions, I understood all too well Guzhua's profound aversion. During family gatherings when we were younger, Guzhua's mother had jokingly suggested that he marry someone from a prominent family. This had infuriated the young Guzhua, who had vehemently declared that he would rather be a eunuch than be associated with such individuals. His disdain extended beyond just that. He abhorred anyone who represented excellence or power in the conventional sense, having once expressed, I wish I could be like you. Guzhua perceived both the Alpha and Omega as creatures driven solely by pheromones. Consequently, whenever confronted by those confessing their feelings to him, he would unleash harsh words that left them in tears. Each time I would hand tissues to the heartbroken individuals. Guzhua found this situation intolerable, yet I reassured him, Guzhua, there is nothing wrong with liking someone. I harbored feelings for Guzhua. This secret had lain dormant within me for 6 years, becoming an integral part of my being. I had initially reveled in my identity, yet everything that transpired last night felt like a jarring wake-up call, shattering my unrealistic dreams. I sent a message. Please disregard the ring I reserved last month. Do as you wish with it. I'm sorry. Scrolling through our chat history, I stared at the couple's rings I had designed with my own hands for a long time. My heart ached. I had intended to confess my feelings to Guzhua once I received the rings, but it seemed the outcome had already been preemptively revealed. Since then, Guzhua had become even more clingy. Not only did he insist on accompanying me to class, but he also followed me to the restroom. While I was relieving myself, he peeked at me with curiosity. Abai, why is it pink here? Finally, I could no longer tolerate it. Get out. Just as I was being bothered by this boundaryless individual, Xiao Yu unexpectedly forwarded me an article on physiological knowledge, and then abruptly asked, you two took precautions, right? I instinctively wanted to reply that pregnancy was impossible, but then it hit me. Oh no, I had already undergone my second differentiation. I instantly panicked, and so did Xiao Yu. He urged me to buy a pregnancy test immediately and promised to accompany me to the hospital another day. Who are you chatting with, not even watching where you're going? Guzhua looked at me like a neglected puppy, his eyes filled with reproach, but I could hardly pay him any mind, hastily finding an excuse to slip away. In fear of running into acquaintances, I took a roundabout route to purchase a pregnancy test, then stealthily tucked it into my pocket as I returned to the dormitory. Unfortunately, I collided with Guzhua, who was waiting at the door. I resisted the impulse to turn and flee. Why are you loitering at the dorm entrance? Are you guarding the door? Was it just my imagination? Or did Guzhua appear somewhat displeased? I forgot my keys. I swallowed hard, still braving his intense gaze as I opened the door. However, as soon as I stepped inside, Guzhua seized my wrist and pinned me against the door. Abai, what have you done that you need to avoid me? My guilty conscience flared, and I attempted to feign innocence. Did you think I wouldn't find a way around your silence? Guzhua teased, scratching me playfully while his other hand swiftly reached for my pocket. Don't. I couldn't stop him in time and could only watch helplessly as he lifted the small box triumphantly. A mischievous smile plastered on his face. Let us see what treasure you've been keeping so tightly hidden. But the next moment his smile faltered. Guzhua read aloud the words on the packaging in disbelief. Pregnancy test? I was engulfed in embarrassment and anger, landing a punch on him, my mortification reaching its peak. What on earth is wrong with you? Give that back. Guzhua groaned as he took my punch, yet he refused to let go. Abai, why would you, as an Omega, buy this thing? Did you accidentally get someone pregnant? His words quickened, his face paling. Did you sleep with someone? Guzhua yanked my hoodie aside. My face flushed crimson as I realized that I was prone to leaving marks, my chest still bearing the remnants of red marks. All of them had been left by this very scoundrel before me, yet he seemed to have forgotten. He stared intently at the marks, rage boiling beneath the surface. Who did you sleep with? Was it Xiao Yu? I thought there was something off between you and him for a while now. You've been glued to your phone, chatting with him, right? Did you two do it? Smack. The sharp sound of a slap echoed in the air. Realizing Guzhua was spiraling further into absurdity, dragging an innocent person into this mess, I struck him out of desperation. Guzhua, do you want to fight? What does Xiao Yu have to do with this? Guzhua held his face, tears brimming in his eyes, as if he had suffered a grave injustice. My palm tingled with regret. I shouldn't have resorted to violence. I wanted him to lower his hand so I could see, but the words simply wouldn't come. Guzhua's eyes were filled with heartbreak, and he ceased his frantic outburst, leaving the atmosphere frozen in silence. My guilt ballooned within me, growing ever larger. Just as I was about to apologize to Guzhua, he turned and fled. I prepared to chase after him when my phone suddenly vibrated. I answered the call, and Xiao Yu asked anxiously, "Have you taken the test yet?" "Not yet." "Oh dear. I'm so anxious. Have you seen the scientific article I sent you? It's quite easy to conceive during the ovulation period." My cheeks flushed with warmth, and just as I was about to respond to Xiao Yu, she hurriedly interjected, "Oh, never mind. That pregnancy test might not be accurate anyway. I've scheduled an examination for you. Just hurry to the first hospital of Yanqing." Following the fervent Xiao Yu, I underwent the examination. While waiting for the results, Xiao Yu tilted her head and inquired, "Brother Yubai, if it turns out you are pregnant, how do you plan to handle it?" I shook my head. I haven't thought it through. I placed my hand on my abdomen, a tumult of emotions swirling within me. Just not long ago, conceiving seemed improbable. Yet now, I might actually be housing a tiny embryo within me. 10 minutes later, I found myself seated in the doctor's office, anxiously awaiting the verdict. The moment the doctor declared the absence of pregnancy signs, Xiao Yu let out a sigh of relief beside me. However, a wave of indescribable disappointment washed over me. The doctor, adjusting his glasses with a smile, elaborated, "The chances of conception during secondary differentiation are not as high as one might think, especially for someone like you, whose differentiation is less than optimal. The pheromones are scarce, and the reproductive tract is considerably narrower than average. If you wish to conceive, you might want to consider deeper penetration." He even made a gesture of encouragement with his hand. My face turned beet red as I awkwardly nodded in agreement. That night, I purchased a soothing ointment for bruises to take back to the dormitory. I intended to apply it on Guzha's face. After all, he cherishes his handsome visage above all. However, I waited until 1 a.m., and Guzha still had not returned. It was his first night away from home. Alone in bed, I pondered. It seemed he was truly upset this time. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep, repeatedly picking up my phone, yet my hand hovered over the call button without pressing it. Wasn't I initially planning to avoid Guzha? Perhaps this gradual distancing was for the best. The next morning, upon opening my eyes, my first glance was directed at Guzha's bed. It remained undisturbed, just as it had been the night before. Clearly, he had not returned. My spirits plummeted, and as I brushed my teeth with a blank expression, I noticed several damp garments hanging on the balcony. Taking out my phone, I found a message from Guzha sent at 6:30 a.m. It was an adorable cartoon rabbit, pitifully waving a white flag. I couldn't help but smile. Seizing the moment, I sent him a "Your Majesty is pleased" sticker. He promptly replied with a "Thank you for your grace." I chuckled but quickly regained my composure. Guzha truly was wonderful. Hence, to remain close to someone so exceptional, I needed to carefully conceal my true identity. I had to avoid Guzha. During the morning lecture, Guzha, as usual, saved me a seat. We sat together, tacitly avoiding any mention of yesterday's quarrel. This relieved me. It was good to maintain distance. However, as soon as class ended, Guzha eagerly wrapped his arms around me. "The restaurant downtown just received your favorite fish. Shall we try it for lunch?" I reminded myself to keep my distance from Guzha, so I subtly shrugged off his hand. "Let's do it another day. The lab is swamped right now, and I need to hurry." Guzha followed me. "Then how about we eat at the cafeteria? My senior is pushing me for updates." I feigned looking at my messages to avoid his gaze. "You go ahead. I'll just grab takeout after I'm done. You still have to eat, bye. How about I pack something for you and bring it over?" Guzha trailed behind me until we reached the entrance of the biology laboratory building. The main entrance requires a fingerprint scan, the only place Guzha couldn't follow me. From behind the glass, I silently gestured to him that he didn't need to wait and, feeling guilty, turned to slip away. In the afternoon, while conducting experiments, I intentionally ignored the messages Guja sent every so often. However, my senior excitedly remarked, "Hey, Xiaobai, your rich friend Guja is quite considerate. He just messaged asking if we were busy, saying he wanted to treat us to something delicious." Oh no, Guja had added all my classmates' contacts. I nearly gave myself away. I quickly asked my seniors to help me cover up. If Guja asks, please say our lab is exceptionally busy lately, especially for me. My senior teased, "Oh, did you two have a lover, Squirrel?" I displayed a flustered expression. "We're truly just friends." Sure. Just friends who pick you up from class every day." My seniors laughed heartily but agreed to help me out. I opened Guja's chat window, where 13 red notifications awaited. Images of cafeteria rice. Sigh, without our abai by my side, the food isn't as tasty. A cat stretching. This tabby is so beautiful. Didn't you always say you wanted both a cat and a dog? How about we get a tabby cat in the future? As I scrolled down, my phone buzzed again. Your Majesty, are you about to finish your audience? I shall prepare to greet you. I quickly replied, no need to pick me up. The lab is particularly busy, and I'll likely be working late tonight. This time, Guja didn't respond immediately. After a considerable pause, he finally replied with a simple okay. My strategy was to minimize our time together as much as possible. We used to be inseparable like conjoined twins, and my identity felt like a paper-thin wonton, bound to be exposed sooner or later. Now, I was using the excuse of lab work to leave early and return late, significantly reducing our time together. Everything seemed to be progressing smoothly, but Guja's expression grew increasingly sour. I thought I was safe until one day, while changing clothes in the dorm, Guja unexpectedly returned. He burst in, waving his arms to fan the air. What's that smell in here? Startled, I quickly opened a window to ventilate. Is it really that strong? Guja frowned. Yes, it's quite pungent. My heart raced. I had been diligent with the suppressants lately. How could he possibly detect it? Was he a bloodhound? Guja continued to sniff the air. It's you, which is why you can't smell it. Some people just lack discretion, always leaving their scent on others. As he spoke, he approached me, releasing a wave of pheromones. Why is there still an unfamiliar scent? Who have you been seeing today? Come closer so I can smell. I was taken aback by the overwhelming surge of pheromones emanating from Guja. Who was the one lacking discretion? Guja, believing I couldn't detect pheromones, surrounded me with his scent. My face flushed crimson. The influence of the pheromones made the back of my neck heat up, a wave of warmth rushing to my forehead. I abruptly pushed Guja away and fled the room in a panic. I wandered in the secluded grove for what felt like an eternity, trying to dissipate the lingering scent. My chaotic thoughts gradually began to clear. This was untenable. The dormitory was a private space. While I had no control over Guja releasing pheromones within, it was evident that in his eyes, I was someone who couldn't detect them. How could I remind Guja not to release pheromones in the dorm? Anxiously, I circled the grove again, finally making a firm decision. I would move out of the dormitory. However, I knew Guja would never agree, so I resolved to act first and inform him later. That very evening, I submitted my off-campus housing application. The process unfolded rapidly, and within just a few days, my advisors summoned me to return the dormitory key. To avoid an awkward encounter, I deliberately chose a time when he had class to seek him out. However, as soon as I stepped outside, a figure appeared behind me like a phantom, casting a tall shadow that enveloped me entirely. Startled, I turned around only to find myself pinned against the wall by a powerful hand at my waist. It was Guja, who was supposed to be in a professional course. His dark, brooding eyes bore into mine. Abai, what have I done to make you avoid me like this? Faced with the situation, I could only feign innocence. I'm not avoiding you. I've just been really busy lately. Busy? Guja was scoffed. So busy that you would abandon a dormitory closer to the lab? So busy that you would move off campus? In a fit of rage, he slammed his fist against the wall. If it weren't for those damn new roommates coming to find me, I would still be kept in the dark by you. Guja's breath came out in heavy gasps, his chest heaving violently. But in the next moment, he covered his eyes with his hand, his voice growing choked with emotion. What have I done wrong? When he raised his head again, tears streamed down his face as he asked, Abai, after all these years, does our relationship mean so little to you? My heart ached as I reached out to wipe his tears away. There's nothing to worry about. You're overthinking it. But Guja turned his face away, avoiding my touch, and sobbed more fiercely. Then what about the pregnancy test? It's all a misunderstanding. It's nothing serious. Yet Guja remained unconvinced, his trembling voice mixed with sobs. Then how do you explain the marks on your body? Abai, stop trying to deceive me. I'm not foolish. Anyone could see what those are. A single lie necessitates countless others to cover it up. My nose tinged with bitterness. Yet I feigned indifference. If you already know, what's the point of asking? We're adults. Fulfilling physiological needs is entirely normal. Let me go. Gujwa hoisted me effortlessly onto his shoulder, disregarding my flailing fists and kicks, and threw me onto the dorm bed, pressing himself down on top of me. His tear-streaked eyes locked onto mine like a predator fixated on its prey. I can also help you with those needs. He lowered his head, his strikingly handsome yet fierce face biting into my belt. I panicked and pushed at his face, only to find it damp with tears. Why are you crying again? Gujwa's tears fell like rain. Why can't I help you? Do you think I'm filthy, so you don't want me anymore? His hoarse voice shattered my heart. Abai, please don't disdain me. I've cleaned myself thoroughly. As he spoke, Gujwa's chin brushed against my sensitive area, eliciting an involuntary gasp from me. His face registered the heat of my reaction, and a flicker of joy appeared. Abai, I knew you still had feelings for me. His warm breath cascaded over my exposed skin, sending shivers down my spine, and I finally released a cry through clenched teeth. Gujwa, you bastard. The moment I cried out, Gujwa instinctively released me. Yet, my tears flowed uncontrollably, all the accumulated grievances, anxiety, and sorrow flooding out. I wept into the blanket, gasping for breath. Gujwa knelt beside me, awkwardly patting my back. Eventually, he gently gathered me, blanket and all, enveloping me in a comforting scent that felt like a warm embrace. Gradually, I calmed down, but Gujwa's breathing became erratic. When I turned to look at him, I felt something hard brushing against my waist. I stared at Gujwa in astonishment. No, Abai, I swear I'm not a pervert. His face flushed. He covered his nose. I don't know what is happening. It suddenly smells so good in here. I widened my eyes in realization, only then noticing that I had been unconsciously emitting pheromones. The two scents in the room had intertwined, merging seamlessly. I finally grasped the situation. I seemed to be in heat. Gujwa also recognized something was amiss, his expression shifting from confusion to shock. The scent is coming from you, Abai, are you? My body tensed, and my instinct was to flee. However, before I could take 2 steps, Gujwa grabbed my ankle and dragged me back. I shot him an indignant glare, but he seemed to burn at my gaze and instantly released me. A thin sheen of sweat covered his brow, and he appeared torn between wanting to touch me and exerting immense self-control. Abai, don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. Yet, overwhelmed by the excessive pheromones, I collapsed onto the bed, buried myself under the covers. My hands clutched Gujwa's hair tightly as I bit my lip to stifle my gasps. Abai, don't hurt yourself, he softly coaxed. I could no longer contain the whimper that escaped my throat. Don't speak while holding it in. It's so strange. After I reached my climax, Gujwa went to brush his teeth. Alone on the bed, I covered my face in embarrassment. After a while, I heard the sound of water from the bathroom again. Why was he showering again? I froze momentarily, then suddenly realized, my face flushed deeply. I waited on the bed, fidgeting anxiously for half an hour until my racing heart finally settled. Yet, Gujwa still hadn't emerged. Was he avoiding facing me? My heart sank. For Gujwa, the childhood friend who had grown up with me had transformed into something he despised. It must be quite uncomfortable for him. Moreover, he might have realized that the person he had shared the bed with that night was me. I recalled Gujwa's frantic scrubbing in the bathroom, anxiety gnawing at my nails. It was all my fault for suddenly transitioning into heat in the dorm and emitting pheromones that led Gujwa into his rut. Our dynamic had become so awkward. Sitting on the bed, I was enveloped in confusion. What was to become of our friendship forged over more than a decade? I stood up, tiptoed out of the dorm, and resolved to leave quietly, sensing Gujwa's reluctance to address the matter directly. I made my way to the off-campus apartment I rented. Suddenly, I received a video call from my parents, who had been enjoying themselves on a cruise for over a month. My father, looking blissful, nestled against Mizu, who wore sunglasses. My dear, where are you? This doesn't look like the dorm. I replied that I had rented a place off campus. My father immediately expressed concern. Oh no, why aren't you living on campus? It's unsafe to be alone outside. Yes, why didn't you let Xiaogu stay with you? My mother chimed in cheerfully. I was at a loss for words. My parents had always practiced a hands-off approach to my upbringing, and I had grown up eating meals at Gujwa's home. Now that I was an adult, they suddenly seemed concerned about my safety. Your father is worried about you living alone. Tell your mother your address. After I provided the address, they abruptly ended the call. How bizarre. I scratched my head, ordered takeout, and within 10 minutes, a knock echoed at the door. Was the delivery service in Jingxi this fast? I opened the door, puzzled, only to find a breathless Gouge was standing there. Instinctively, I attempted to slam the door shut, only for an outstretched hand to intervene and halt my efforts. I watched in dismay as that hand was caught in the door, a slender finger immediately marked by a crimson line. Gouge gasped in pain but stubbornly refused to let go. Gouge, are you out of your mind? I exclaimed. I hastily opened the door, anxious to check on his finger, but before I could react, he enveloped me in a tight embrace. I stepped out of the bathroom and realized you were gone. I was terrified. The pheromones in the air resonated with his unease. Gouge held me for what felt like an eternity before finally gripping my shoulders and lifting his gaze to meet mine. His eyes piercing through me. Abai, I've thought long and hard about it, and it was you who was in heat that night in the dormitory, wasn't it? His tone was unwavering, leaving me no room for denial. I could only lower my head in guilty acknowledgement. A hint of a suspicious flush appeared on Gouge's cheeks as he clenched his fists, covering his mouth to cough lightly, then boldly interrogated me. Abai, you took my precious first time, and then you just ran away? Do you not wish to take responsibility? What? I never anticipated that Gouge would demand accountability from me. My mind drifted back to his desperate demeanor after being defiled. Indeed, Gouge was notoriously conservative. You can't really not want to take responsibility, can you? Abai, please say something. Gouge fervently shook my shoulders. I pushed him away. Aren't you the one who despises this? Haven't you always refused to succumb to pheromones? Well, can't I change my mind? What? I stared in disbelief at the sudden transformation of his demeanor. After all, his previous disdain had been genuine. Had he been possessed by a spirit? Abai, do you truly not wish to take responsibility for me? Gouge dramatically clutched his chest, feigning heartbreak. Since you refuse to take responsibility, I suppose I must pursue you. What? Pursue whom? Me? I was taken aback by his words, and while my mind was still reeling, Gouge began to ramble on about his intentions. I need to go back and prepare. Until you agree to take responsibility for me, Abai, just wait for my pursuit. With that, he swiftly planted a kiss on my cheek before dashing away, leaving me in a daze. Before I could gather my thoughts, Gouge began his grand pursuit. He escalated his efforts by coming over to help with chores, braving all conditions to present me with flowers at the entrance of the laboratory amidst the teasing of our seniors. He even attempted to cook in my rented apartment. I heard that those who can cook are the most charming. Abai, do you think I'm handsome? As I watched him wield a spatula, striking poses, I couldn't help but chuckle, handsome, handsome, handsome. After dinner, we strolled around the neighborhood, and upon seeing children playing joyfully by the roadside, Gouge couldn't help but praise them, his face beaming with delight. Children are truly adorable. I was taken aback by Gouge's silly grin. Aren't you the one who despises children? Gouge firmly defended himself. That was then. This is now. He even posted a public announcement on social media. I am Gouge, and I solemnly declare that I am now in love. The comments section erupted with confusion, with friends questioning, have you finally lost your mind from all the studying? It wasn't until Gouge was reluctantly whisked away by his advisor to attend a conference in a neighboring city that I finally caught a breath amidst his relentless pursuit. I arranged to meet Xiao Yu at a CAF near the school. Gouge's pursuit made me undeniably happy. Yet amidst my joy, I felt as though everything hung precariously like thin ice on a branch in spring, ready to vanish under the sun's gaze. After all, Gouge had once harbored genuine disdain for this. I laid everything bare before Xiao Yu, seeking his counsel. But when I looked up, I found him scrolling through social media with a look of despair, muttering through clenched teeth. He has finally dropped the act. I thought I must have misheard. What did you say? I didn't catch that. Xiao Yu's expression was complex as he gazed at me. After a long pause, he sighed, nothing. I genuinely think Gouge is sincere about you. You should consider accepting him. My cheeks flushed. Really? Indeed. Xiao Yu smiled with relief. Brother Yu Bai, I wish you happiness. Upon returning to my rented room, a figure lunged at me, enveloping me in a tight embrace. Abai, I've been so foolish. Gouge's voice was choked with emotion. I'm the most naive and oblivious person in the world. I quickly pulled his face out of my embrace. Why are you crying again? He angrily wiped away a tear and retrieved a small velvet box from his pocket. Opening it revealed a pair of sparkling silver rings. Gouge carefully displayed the ring in his palm, showing me the engraved letter, and his voice trembled as he asked, It's me, right? Abai, you like me too? My eyes began to well up as I gazed at the ring, one I had designed myself and longed for, only to have discarded it in despair, now shimmering in the hands of the person I adored. It was akin to the spark of Gouge's own heart. Tears finally spilled over. Yes, I've liked you for ages, you fool. Before I could finish my sentence, Gouge kissed me. In the fervent exchange of breaths, we tasted each other's salty tears. When the kiss ended, Gouge rested his forehead against mine, intertwining our fingers. I've liked you since the very first time I saw you, for a long, long time, to the point of madness. Bye. Am I dreaming? I feel like the happiest person in the world. I broke into a smile, silly, so am I. I sent a generous red envelope to the kind friend who had given me the ring, and then spent the entire night hand in hand with Gouge, whispering sweet nothings. When Gouge learned that I had harbored a crush on him since my sophomore year, he was overjoyed, holding me close and showering me with kisses. I felt utterly overwhelmed. After finally pushing him away, he leaned in close to my ear, his expression serious. Bye. Do you realize we've missed out on 6 years? Gouge began to count on his fingers. If all had gone smoothly, we should have begun this on our 18th birthday, but now we've delayed it until 24. Even based on the minimum standard of twice a week, we've missed out on approximately 630 instances. We absolutely must make up for this. He scooped me up in his arms, whispering in my ear, bye. Let us start making up for it tonight, shall we? It wasn't until the following afternoon that I gradually awakened from my slumber. Gouge sat beside me, happily scrolling through his phone. As I leaned over to see, I discovered he had announced our relationship to the world. All of our friends were inundated with his declarations. Hey, just wanted to share a love story. Yes, the protagonists are me and you. Bye. We're together now. Thank you for your blessings. We will last forever because my partner loves me dearly. I shook my head, chuckling. Seeing Gouge so exuberant inspired me to muster some courage, so I dialed my mother's number. Hello, Mom. I have something to tell you. I hesitated before finally gathering my courage to say straightforwardly, I'm with Gouge now. There was a moment of silence on the other end before my mother replied in astonishment. Haven't you two been together for a long time? This time, it was my turn to be astonished. What? My mother continued. Didn't you both start dating in high school? At that time, Gouge's mother was quite concerned that your early romance would affect your studies. I even advised her that as long as your grades didn't decline, you should be free to pursue your relationship. I hung up the phone, feeling dazed, and caught sight of Gouge standing on the balcony, seemingly engaged in a call with her parents as well. Her voice, faintly carried by the breeze, appeared to be discussing something about marrying right after graduation. Sunlight illuminated Gouge's radiant smile, and in that moment, happiness felt within reach. The story concludes here. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing and giving a thumbs up for support. Until we meet again in the next tale.